From New York, it's the Power Station at Berklee NYC. I'm your host, Stephen Weber. In this episode, Annette Philip, the founding director of the Berklee Indian Ensemble, talks about keeping it light. We explore some inexpensive DIY mics. Garry Rindfuss winds the clock back to some legendary Power Station sessions. The staff goes on a virtual coffee run. And James Yost of Reservoir Studios tells us about making a comfortable home for recording. Annette Philip is a vocalist, touring and session musician, influencer, master clinician, and entrepreneur who thrives on experimenting with the human voice. Hailing from Kerala, India, Annette is the artistic director of the Berklee India Exchange and the founder and director of the renowned Berklee Indian Ensemble, which has garnered over 170 million views on YouTube. Annette is creative director and core vocalist of the multi-award-winning international a cappella quartet Women of the World, who perform music in 37 languages. She's also known for her charming persona and gorgeous silk saris on the popular PBS show Sing That Thing and her daily internet series Keeping It Light. Annette Philip, welcome to the Power Station podcast.
Thank you, Stephen. And man, what an intro.
That was quite an intro, wasn't it? So you do so many things, from the Indian Ensemble to Women of the World to television to recording to touring. How do you balance it all? I mean, that's the first question I have for you, because everybody is human. And I think people that look at you and you're always so calm and so centered. How do you stay in balance?
First of all, I don't think I'm always calm and centered. Thank you for the perception. I don't try to balance. After many years of struggling, and I'm sure you can resonate with this, not only did I feel that everything was out of balance, I was constantly scolded and told by many people that you must achieve more balance in your life. And I struggled with it. I struggled daily, and it really affected my self-esteem. And also, it put a lot of pressure and guilt on me. I often felt like I wasn't, a good daughter, or I wasn't a good enough teacher, or I was letting my team down. And something that really shifted for me was when I listened to the speaker, Lisa Nichols. She talked about work-life harmony as opposed to work-life balance.
Ah, interesting.
And that was such an interesting concept, because the word balance usually indicates to most of us a 50-50 cut. And a great visual that works for me is when I'm watching someone create a pyramid of cards, playing cards, like a castle of cards. When I see someone doing that, I feel anxious for them. I hold my breath.
Right.
It's such an art of precision that people have to be so careful about making sure that these opposing cards are completely symmetrical and nothing is helter-skelter. And that's not how life is. Life is everything, who knows?
Everything's helter-skelter.
Exactly.
Time to time. Yeah.
When I started shifting my internal vocabulary to involve the word harmony rather than balance, I realized that the pressure was off, because the word harmony, by definition, means a pleasing arrangement of various elements that can coexist effortlessly or somewhat effortlessly. And I realized I love the work that I do, and I love what others considered my personal life. I don't want to feel that there's competition within my own life. And ever since I shifted the use of that vocabulary from balance to harmony, things have been much better.
I love that, because also in harmony, it's implied that a little bit of rub now and then, a little bit of distance can actually make it more interesting. So another substitution that you speak about in your live stream, Keeping It Light, is saying thank you rather than sorry. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh my goodness, this is something that changed so many things for me. I am a compulsive apologizer. I say sorry even if someone else hit me in the street. I'll apologize that I was in their way. I noticed that the words that we say often become a part of our constant self-talk. And self-talk defines how we see ourselves. It begins to shape what we think we can achieve as individuals.
Certainly.
And it infuses, I mean, those words have power. All the words that we repeat often infuse certain value systems and beliefs into our DNA, so to speak, or at least our emotional, mental makeup.
Sure.
Every time you apologize for something, you are demeaning yourself in a little way. And I'm not saying never apologize. I think if you've done something wrong, if you've wronged someone, if you've made a mistake, definitely, own your mistake, grow from it. However, let me give you some examples. Let's say I am having a really bad day and I talk to my mom. And in the middle of it, I said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm wasting all your time. I've been talking all this while." Instead of that, you could actually say, "Thank you so much for listening to me and giving me space to express myself." Similarly, I think for young people, or really any age, when you're trying something new and you're making mistake after mistake, oftentimes we'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I messed up." But instead, if you pivot and you say, "Thank you for being patient as I learn and grow and evolve," it also reminds you to be kind to yourself and to be patient with yourself. And it gives the other person a moment to remember that you're in your learning phase. And I just think it has transformed the opportunities or the situations in my life where I am able to remember. I still am a compulsive apologizer, but I'm working on it. It's a work in progress, and it's helping a lot.
That's fantastic. I do want to ask you about one project in particular, the Berklee Indian Ensemble.
Okay.
Has a very popular video, or actually a couple now, that you recorded at the Power Station in 360 cinematic VR.
Yeah.
We were so thrilled to have you in the house. Could you talk a little bit about the group that you recorded and just that whole experience of recording in 360?
Well, the Indian Ensemble is about to turn 10 years old next year. And we've had almost 400 musicians from 43 countries be part of this ensemble.
That's amazing.
And we've been very blessed that so far the music that we've created and put out into the world has been supported and encouraged and loved. And we were actually on our first East Coast tour when we got this beautiful opportunity to record at the Power Station. And just being there, imbibing the energy and the legacy of this beautiful studio was really, I think, awe-inspiring for all of us. It was a 15-piece ensemble. We had a live audience, which was perfect. And we set up in a circle in the main room, and then our percussionists were in another room, sort of in a semicircle. And I think just seeing the jaunt cameras was exciting. It almost looks like some sort of alien spacecraft type structure. It looks like it has many eyes.
Yes.
Very, very cool. Anyway, it was a great experience. And I think primarily watching the 360 video post-production was beautiful because I could decide to focus on a specific moment or a specific group of people, depending on where I chose to focus my attention. And I would play it multiple times and each time focus on a different part of the room. It's just such a beautiful, immersive technology. It's going to change the way that people experience recorded music. And I hope that, it'll be more accessible, really, to people.
Sure. As the technology gets smaller for the consumer, I think we're really going to see that take off. Well, Annette Philip, thank you so much for joining us on the Power Station podcast. Do you have one more closing thought for us?
Something that I've always struggled with is the concept of perfect.
Yes.
Practice makes perfect. I think all of us have heard this from teachers, from parents, you name it. I don't know that it's helpful necessarily anymore, at least in my life. And my internal pivot has been practice makes progress.
That's much more realistic. Well, very seldom does practice actually make perfect in the first place.
Right. Perfection is elusive, and perfection also assumes that there's only one possible outcome, which is somewhat rigid, whereas progress is fluid. Progress is right now going to the next right now and the next right now. And therefore, it's transparent. There is no mask. You know exactly where you are, who you are at that point. And it focuses more on what you are and what you have achieved rather than what you are not.
Annette Philip hosts a daily series called Keeping It Light, where she delves into helpful, practical advice for creative people, akin to what she shared with us today. You can find Keeping It Light with Annette Philip on Instagram and Facebook Live.
Hello, I'm Ian Kagey, and I'm the Director of Operations of Power Station at Berklee NYC. This week on NYC Studio Spotlight, we're going to speak with engineer James Yost about Reservoir Studios. Reservoir was started by Steve Sillett and Pat Dillett in what once was Skyline Studios, located on 37th Street in Manhattan. Reservoir is a multi-room facility that is centered around a large wooden live room and control room. The facility also supports a number of other tenant spaces that host a myriad of great musicians that you'll hear James mention later in the podcast, like composer Nico Muley, acclaimed musician Thomas Bartlett, and of course producer and recording engineer Pat Dillett. James has been at Reservoir since they opened their doors in 2015, and he was kind enough to sit down with me and talk about his time there. The first thing I wanted to know was, what makes Reservoir Studios such a unique place to record music?
First of all, it feels like a home or somebody's apartment. And so as you walk in, it doesn't have an office feeling really, or it doesn't have like overkill with the searching for vibe. And then my favorite part about it is that there's people doing different things all the time. And so Nico may be working on a new composition, and Thomas will be producing someone in his room. And you can kind of hear those things. Pat will be mixing something. And so you can come out of the control room whenever you're hyper-focused on something in A and run into people who are not working on the same thing as you. And so you can kind of clear your head and also just like talk to people who are doing other cool things. And that's really special, I think.
With all those artists sort of coming through the door and kind of being under one roof, what's the most interesting session that you've seen happen, or what's the sort of coolest session you've sort of been a part of or seen or witnessed happen at the studio?
One of the first projects was a Y music album called First that Pat engineered and Thomas produced, and all of the musicians in Y Music I wasn't familiar with at that time. That was the first kind of project that I had seen Pat track from start to finish, and it was just really special because those musicians are really great. And since then they've come back with different projects. They came in with Paul Simon, Bruce Hornsby, and Regina Spektor, and it's just really awesome to see like some of the most incredible musicians collaborating with really huge stars or just artists that I've admired.
What is kind of your favorite thing to record in the live room, or what do you think it lends itself best to in that space?
I think recording drums in the live room is the most fun. I really enjoy recording strings in that room, and horns also sound really good. That room really lends itself to kind of ensemble music and acoustic instruments. There's nothing like being in the same room as musicians.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite things when I was starting to work on sessions, even as a runner or an early assistant, and you sort of get put in the room to kind of, you sort of get thrown out of the room to do headphones or to make sure everybody's got what they need. But it's actually one of the coolest places to be because you're sort of in the room experiencing what something sounds like acoustically with these players, and it's a pretty magical thing for sure.
I mean, I'm just really happy that I've had the opportunity to be a part of it. I mean, given our current situation, I hope people keep recording.
I hope they will. I think that they will. I think that hopefully there'll be this sort of great catharsis of everybody wanting to play together again. Because obviously, doing these sort of remote videos is awesome, but it's nothing is the same as we just talked about of sitting in a room listening to a bunch of people play music together. So I think that I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon. So hopefully we come out of this with more of an appreciation for doing it.
Yeah.
Big thanks again to James and Reservoir Studios. If you'd like to learn more, please visit reservoirstudiosnyc.com. That's it for now. See you next time.
Here's DIY music production tips with Arjun Roy.
Hi everybody, hope you're doing as well as can be. For those of us who create, I guess we're all working from our home studios, huh? So a few of you had the exact same question for me last week. What is one affordable condenser microphone, and not a lav mic, that I would recommend to you for use at home for podcasting, streaming, and recording vocals as well as other sources? Firstly, if you do not already own an audio interface, then a USB microphone such as the Blue Yeti is the go-to option for content creators for a couple of very good reasons. Number one, plug and play. It's really that simple. And number two, the price point. This comes in at about $120 US, which is 170 Canadian. Now then, if you do own an audio interface, here are my recommendations for the top 3 $100, that's 150 Canadian, condenser microphones. All of these happen to be cardioid mics and include a regular mount in the box. They also feature a switchable pad and high-pass filter, except for this first one. Number 1, the Audio-Technica AT2020. You've seen it because everyone seems to use this in the podcasting and streaming game. I've used it across a variety of sound sources over the years and find that, of the 3 mics, this works really well on male vocals. Number 2, the Studio Project's B1. I've seen this around less than the 2020 these days, but I have used a variety of these for cutting heavy metal vocals and other things some time ago. This mic also comes with a shock mount and foam wind cover included in the box. Number 3, the AKG Perception 120. I've used this one across a variety of sound sources many times over the years and find that of these 3 microphones, this performs great on female vocals. What are some super affordable mics that really work well for you? Be sure to let us know. Stay tuned, and above all, be well.
And now, Tales from the Tape Vault with Roy Hendrickson.
Hello, I'm Roy Hendrickson. Today we're going to speak with Garry Rindfuss. He's a longtime engineer friend of mine, and we're going to talk about the early days of Power Station here in New York City. Garry, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, Roy. Happy to do it, and thank you for asking me.
So when did you begin at Power Station?
I got my job at Power Station in second week of January of 1979.
Wow.
And I thought, well, this is great, I got showed around the place, and it's like, okay, this place is real, I wasn't even a second engineer at that point. I was cleaning up and going to the bank.
That was the same for me.
Same for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just grunts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would steal moments in the recording studio whenever I possibly could. They were always looking for me. Where's Garry? He's in Studio B.
So you did a lot of sitting in on sessions?
A lot.
Yeah, I did the same.
Yeah, and it was really amazing. I watched early Chic sessions when they're cutting records like Good Times, when Bruce came in to start The River. But, it was all hands on deck to get the E Street Band set up.
Sure.
And the first song they recorded was Roulette, if you know that song.
Sure.
Because 3 Mile Island had just happened down in Pennsylvania, the nuclear accident.
So were there any favorite sessions that you had? Things that you sort of hold close to you as great memories?
I would say 3 records. First off, the single record, Under Pressure, Queen and David Bowie.
Sure.
That was a really cool record. And, you're working with Freddie Mercury and you're working with David Bowie,
Sure.
It's pretty amazing. And I actually helped mix it because we had to mix it on an analog console without automation.
Sure.
So it was one of those all hands on deck things. I listened to that song and I can hear the things that I did on the mix, Next up, probably The River, Springsteen. It was a record I worked on longer, I think, than I worked on any other. And that by longer, I was on that record for 4 months.
Right.
The first 4 months of 1980. And, working with Bruce was great. Bruce is every bit as cool and as nice a guy as you think he is, He's
Right.
He's real, and beyond the fact he's, hugely talented and he's, at this point,
yeah.
he's legendary. And then I would have to say Marshall Crenshaw's second album, Field Day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Great record. Marshall's a great guy. I'm in touch with him on a regular basis still.
Sure.
And, it was that great combination of people, Marshall and Robert and John, his 2 brothers.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, they're really good, really good players. And Marshall, of course, is a genius songwriter.
So what did you find you thought was very unique about Power Station?
One thing about Power Station I think was a little different from other studios sometimes, because we were talking about this before, the control rooms were so ergonomically set up, you could do a date, without a second engineer, unless it was, something colossal. But, you had the console obviously right in front of you. You had the remote for the tape machine right there. And then you had, what we called the R2 rack, which was this rack of equipment. And it was all, you could just reach it. You just reach for it. And the Pultec rack, 24 Pultecs in every room. But then, things start changing. We started, digital tape machines in the early 80s. I think the first digital machine we had was the 3M. Borderline experimental, those machines, especially the 3M, the 32 track. You always had to have a guy there. Somebody from 3M would just basically babysit the session. And then the Sony, the 3324 and the 3348, the great late lamented 3348, that cost $250,000 when it was new, and now you can buy them on eBay for $3,000. Oh my God. And James Farber and I were talking about this the other day, just how lucky we were. To have landed at Power Station, I mean.
Sure.
A new facility that was going to, in very short order, become one of the biggest recording studios on the planet. And the cavalcade of stars, if you want to put it that way, that came through the place, especially those first few years. I mean, it was just remarkable. You could get blasé about it. It's like, who's in B? Oh, the Kinks. Oh, cool. I mean, oh yeah, and Bruce is coming back next month, and Paul McCartney's doing something up at sea. It's like, wow.
Sure. In New Mexico, where I grew up, I already knew about the studio.
Oh, you did?
DJs were talking about it. Yes.
Yeah. And then, of course, Bernard Edwards puts that band together and calls it Power Station.
That really blew it up.
It became a household name, partly because of that, Some Like It Hot and all that,
Thank you, Gary. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. It's really been great hearing about some of the early days of Power Station and a lot of the fun that we had.
Sure. Yeah. No, this was great. Thank you for asking me. It's always, always fun to, drift down memory lane, and think about the olden days.
Let's check in with the staff of Power Station at Berklee NYC in our segment, Staff Lounge with Ben Miller.
New York City has been on pause for a while now, and something that I've really been missing is our daily coffee run. I thought it might be fun to do a virtual coffee run. So we did, and our personalities started to emerge a little bit. Check it out.
Hey, buddy.
Coffee? Sure.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, why not?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're going.
Oh, you're so sweet. I'll take an iced coffee.
I'll have a cold brew black.
I'll have a large coffee with cream.
Let me get the biggest green tea they'll let you buy.
I'm always good for an Americano.
Dunkaccino.
I'll take Grande Americano.
How about a grande?
A mochaccino.
I would love a double espresso, please.
Can I have a double espresso, please?
I'll have a grande Americano.
I'll take one of those desserty frappuccino things, but can you hold the whipped cream?
I pick anything.
Hold the caramel.
You can just pick anything for me.
They're going to ask you if you want water in it. Tell them no.
Sausage, egg, and cheese. No cheese.
And hold the coffee.
Just 2 shots.
Because I don't even drink coffee.
Put the double espresso by the console in Studio C.
A yellow lighter and some saran wrap.
I'm super easy.
And if you go anywhere near Empanada Mama, get me a spicy chicken.
Can I get a latte with oat milk?
And a latte.
I think I'll take an oat milk latte and some banana bread.
Some banana bread if they have it.
And if any of the staff ordered banana bread, get them a dill pickle instead. Millennials love dill pickles.
Don't worry, I got the banana bread and the pickles.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Love you.
Now we look toward the future of media production in our segment, Spatial Awareness with Glenn Forsythe.
The Power Station has been a technological marvel in studio design for over 4 decades. As we open our doors to the next generation of talented musicians and performers, we are also continuing the studio's history of innovation by providing cutting-edge technologies like spatial audio and cinematic VR 360. I'm Glenn Forsythe, the immersive media producer here at Power Station at Berklee NYC. As we embark on discovering how new technologies influence the future of music creation, I'm taking a look at the people who work in immersive media to share their experiences with us. Today, I spoke with Marcella Rada, a music production, technology, and innovation alum at Berklee Valencia, about her experiences studying immersive media and collaborating with students around the world.
Hi, my name is Marcella Rada. I'm a sound engineer and content developer, and I specialize in Ambisonic audio and 360 video. Because at Berklee Valencia, we have different master's programs. I was able to collaborate with a lot of different people. I collaborated mostly with the Scoring for Film program. So I was able to record original scores that the students composed, which was really cool. And we had amazing musicians, of course, from Berklee Valencia and from Spain, and people that come from Europe that work in Spain as professional musicians. I already had access to 360 cameras and VR sets and a first order Ambisonic microphone. So they were very, very supportive, and I was super grateful that I was able to get everything that I needed to actually gain this knowledge and these skills. I still collaborate with them a lot. They arrange and then they send me stems to mix. And whenever I need a musician, whatever instrument or something, I got someone. So yeah, the connections that I made at Berklee Valencia have been extremely valuable.
Marcella's culminating experience project for her master's degree in music production, technology, and innovation at Berklee Valencia focused on the capture of 360 immersive audio and video, eventually taking her to London to capture orchestral music at Airs Studios.
I realized during my recordings that because I tried different things, I tried with spot mics and an Ambisonic mic, and then I tried, like during my mixes, I tried just the Ambisonic mic, just the spot mics and spatial audio plugins, both. I found that sometimes it worked better when I only use the spot mics, and there were times where I only used the Ambisonic microphone and it sounded amazing. Definitely experimenting, but that is definitely something like your arrangement, the positioning of the musicians, the space that you're in, definitely is stuff that you can have in mind and prepare for and plan for from the very beginning. Of course, when you're in a regular recording session, yeah, you want to be tidy, but usually it doesn't matter where a cable is on the floor, But when creating this content, you do have to be a lot more careful. So to make things easier in post-production, I think, more than ever now, 360 videos, VR, all of these immersive experiences, I think are going to have a bloom. And I think great for us that we're already in it and developing content, because I think right now it's a great thing to know.
That's it for this episode of The Power Station at Berklee NYC. Contributors include Ian Kagey, Ryan Nava, Glenn Forsythe, Ben Miller, Edica Tello, Arjun Roy, Gavin Berger, and Roy Hendrickson. I'm Stephen Weber. If you'd like to hear more, subscribe. To engage, leave us a comment. Thanks for joining us.